we go. One person. Oh, Kieran. Hey, Key. How are you? Can you hear me? Toff. Dave, here they come in. Everyone's coming in now. Hello. How's everyone doing? Hopefully you're not as bored as I am. Oh, thanks, Key. This is fresh. This hasn't been debuted yet. This hasn't come out. This is fresh out of the packet. I believe it's a Japan replica jersey. I think. Yeah. Oh, Jacob. Cheers up. Where are we at time-wise, yeah? Plenty of time. Hey, Jane. Couple more minutes. We've got a minute and we'll get going then. Some more great questions based off of last week, guys. Can get my teeth stuck into them properly this week now, so they're a little bit longer when it comes down to the actual content of the questions. So if I don't get through all of them, because to be fair, we had a fair few in, I'll make sure that I go over the ones next week that I didn't quite get a chance to get into tonight. And as I said, if you do get any questions as you're going along, just drop a comment in the section below. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to answer them tonight because we've got so many. But I'll highlight them then, and I'll tick them off for next week, just to make sure that I am trying to get back to everyone. But yeah, and I know a few people have said that they've implemented a few of the things from last week, whether that is just trying to set a structure to their diet, or whether that's using some of the like sweet treats and stuff that I suggested, which is awesome. So yeah, just keep doing that. Keep ticking away, and you'll be absolutely fine. Thanks, Sean. This is a cracking piece, I gotta say. This is one of my favourites. Right, 8 o'clock. Let's get going, shall we? I don't actually think the person who asked me this question has joined the stream yet, but we'll get going with it anyway. Bit of a double question. What's your best source of protein, and what are my opinions of protein powders? Okay, first off, when you're looking at what is the best source of protein, it's essential to understand why having enough protein is essential for you as a person. So we all know the protein is the building blocks of life. And when we say the building blocks of life, we're not just talking about muscles, we're talking on a cellular level as well. So that's everything down to the smallest detail within your body, and the way your body functions are based around proteins, okay? So they're there to help us repair, they're to regenerate tissues, to go to cell structures, loads and loads of different micro level things. So that is why it's important for us to have ample protein in the diet. What are proteins? So proteins are made up of chains of things called amino acids. And amino acids are essentially just smaller proteins. These proteins are then linked by what's called a peptide bond. So I know it's a little bit sciencey, but it's important to get this covered now. Otherwise, the rest of it's not going to really mean much to you. So the smaller proteins are linked by protein bonds, carry the DNA then of that cell, or the RNA of that cell. And then they make like a big line, like a big long structure of protein. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And the best way that I can sort of contextualize that now is it's like a giant conga line of smaller proteins that don't know how to socially distance, which then make a bigger protein. Okay, so that's what a protein is really. In the body, there's 20 amino acids that are needed, 20-ish amino acids that are needed to maintain cellular function, and just to make sure that they are working properly. Of those 20, 9 of them are what we call essential amino acids. So you've probably seen supplements on the market which are EAA, so essential amino acids, or branched chain amino acids. They're a little bit different in their structure. Why are amino acids essential? Or why are essential amino acids essential? Well, they can't be synthesized in the body. So the body can't make them. So if you can't make them and they are essential for your function, you need to get them in through your diet, okay? Like branched chain amino acids, they can be synthesized within the body. So hopefully that's not a little, I know it's a little bit complex, but it's all a building block, as we say. So now we know what they are, it's important to understand that you need a high biological value protein, okay? So when it comes down to selecting what protein is good for you, you need to look at the biological value of that protein. And we're not talking about like the washing up liquid biological value. We're looking at how well the body can synthesize, digest, and utilize that particular amino acid and protein type. Okay, so some proteins are better at being absorbed in the body, and some proteins just don't like being absorbed, and they're just completely destroyed by the gut, by like all the acids in your stomach and stuff. So when you're looking at your protein intake, it's essential that we look at ones which have that high biological value. We'll go into what they are now as well, don't worry. And then probably the biggest driver when you want to look at what proteins you need are going to be what's called a leucine content. So if any of you know what leucine is, that's an essential amino acid. That's something that can't be synthesized within the body. Leucine is the key driver behind muscle protein synthesis. So muscle protein synthesis is basically making your muscles bigger, repairing your muscles, making sure when you've done BST or when you've squatted, you're recovering. Okay, so there's a little bit of like an internal mechanism which is regulated by leucine. So if you're not getting enough leucine in through your diet, then your ability to make proteins and repair your muscle is going to be not as good. Okay, but you're not going to do it at all, to be fair, if you're not getting enough leucine. So yeah, we need to make sure that we're getting enough of that leucine through our diet. But I'm not really expecting you to Google like the chemical compositions and stuff of what leucine is, but for you to know where they are in your foods, because nature does have a funny way of making sure that the proteins within our foods contain the right balance of those amino acids. Okay, it's a little bit more difficult, and don't shoot me down for this, but it's true. It's a little bit more difficult for those who are following a plant-based diet to get that protein content in, because legumes, your black beans, etc., which are the traditional protein sources for people following a plant-based diet, just don't have that leucine content in. So you're going to either have to combine loads of different types of plant-based proteins to get it in, or you're going to have to supplement that then with a leucine supplement. Okay, what are the best meat, or the best options essentially, which is what the question was? All meats, to be fair. Things like chicken, turkey has a very high biological value, so that's going to be digested very well. It's got a low level fat if you're getting a lean cut, the same as with chicken. Eggs, egg whites in particular. I think egg whites are the most biologically available protein you can get. Okay, you got meat, beef, and you've got milk, and I think one which kind of comes into the second part of the question are whey protein supplements. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a whey protein supplement, okay? They are essentially just your broken down foods. There's a few little caveats or points that I would suggest you want to stay away from them, or would influence your decision to take a protein shake, choosing to use that protein shake. If you're using that as a meal replacement, as a way to lose weight, then I'd probably say stay away from them, because you're going to be getting the same calorie content from a shake that you would get from your standard meal. Does that make sense? So why would you want to drink a flavoured milk for the same amount of calories you could have like a chicken-based meal? To me, that doesn't really make sense. So I would avoid swapping out a meal for a protein shake, if that makes sense. A great time for you to take them is if you're struggling in work, if you haven't got time, if you're busy, if you're working on a line or something and you just can't get a meal into you. That's when I would say to supplement with a whey shake, and also post-workout. If you've got a little bit of a travel back and forth to the gym like I do, you may want to, just have a quick shake after that as well, just to make sure you are topping up that amino acid profile in your blood, which is, again, going to help you recover. Okay, so take home from that is you want to look for foods which have got a high biological value. You want plenty of leucine in your diet, and they're going to come from chicken, turkey, eggs, beef, milk, egg whites, and whey protein isn't essential, but it's a good tool if you struggle to get your protein intake from your food. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question as well. Next one, bit of an opinion one really this is, but fat-free or full-fat Greek yogurt. One thing you probably see as we go through all of these sort of Q&As is I come back to Jack's favourite saying of it depends, and it does depend on a lot. it depends on why you want to be using Greek yogurt. So the main benefit of fat-free Greek yogurt is just that it's fat-free, so you're not carrying the extra calories of that fat, so it's going to have slightly less calories. But you've got to bear in mind, fat-free options do often have higher carbs or higher sugar, so it's kind of a trade-off with that one. What do you want to have? Do you want the higher carbs or do you want the higher fats? Again, it's going to be minimal difference when we look at, when we're comparing them. Not when we're comparing them calorie-wise, but when we can comparing them in the nutritional profile. Okay, so why would I go for a full fat one? Well, it tastes better for a start, as that full fat option is going to make sure that it is the better option as well from a taste standpoint. But to be honest with you, that's probably the one and only benefit that I could see in comparison to fat free is the fact that it tastes a bit nicer. They both contain casein, so casein is a slow digesting protein that's great before bed, and I also like to put that in some people's diets in the morning with a little bit of whey protein as well, because casein is slower digesting, so you're going to stay fuller a little bit longer from it. So that's a really good benefit of using Greek yogurt. Where are we at? Yeah, so for me, the biggest difference is calories. You're going to have more calories in that fat in the full fat Greek yogurt. So if you're someone who may be struggling to gain a bit of weight, if you're a rugby boy maybe, or a youngster who's just trying to pack on a bit of muscle, then go for the full fat option, because you're going to get extra calories in there where just easy calories to eat. But if you're just someone who's using fat-free Greek yogurt as a way for a meal when you're trying to lose a bit of weight, I would say go for the fat-free option, because it is a great source of protein from you. And again, this was tagged on to this question. I know we went over a bit last week, but I'll just come back to it again in a bit more detail as well. It's about your sweeteners and your syrups. Yeah, they are sweeteners, syrups are a great tool when you are dieting, because it gets boring eating the same stuff all the time, doesn't it? Let's be fair, it doesn't matter what seasonings you put on your food, you fancy something sweet. I know I do all the time. So we looked at Truvia last week, which is my personal favourite when it comes to an artificial sweetener, because it's not artificial. It's just a natural plant extract. It does make everything better for me. Oats, yogurt, coffee, tea. I just chuck it in everything. I probably got shares in Truvia, to be honest. There's a load of other natural artificial sweeteners out there as well. Agave syrup is one. It's not something that I've used myself, to be honest. And when you look at the nutrient profile on it, it's very similar to honey. So we'll come on to honey now, but I would say I probably wouldn't waste your money on going for something like an agave syrup, because I don't really see much more benefit to it. Things like some branded versions, you've got like skinny syrups online, you've got Jordan's Bakery, who else do a few good ones? I think My Protein do them as well, like the syrups, which are great. They're gonna flavour up your food for you. And I know that myself and Chris both love the My Protein flavour drops, and they are like just a really concentrated little bottle. Looks a bit like squash, but it doesn't taste like squash. You can get like raspberry flavour, coffee. Just drop that into your sweet foods, and it makes a massive difference then when it comes to like how palatable that food is. Honey. Yeah, so as I said, agave is very similar to honey, but I would always say opt for honey, particularly one which has got a high UMF value, okay? So which is, again, like sort of that biological effectiveness of the antimicrobial properties of honey. So I would say use honey, because although it's got calories in it, it's got loads of antibiotics and it's got loads of antimicrobials in there as well, but it is hefty in calories, right? So don't go like just drooling loads of honey over your food, because then you're just going to completely negate the effects of your diet by chucking loads of honey on your food. And I would always look for a Manuka honey as well. It doesn't taste as good, but it does give that sweetness, and Manuka has got loads of other extra health benefits, which, to be honest with you, I'm not very clued up on, so I'm not even going to bother going into the details on them. I just like it, I think it's good. But for sweeteners and syrups, just try to look for ones which are natural. You don't want ones which are packed full of artificial flavours. Just try and get ones like the My Protein drops. I don't think have artificial sweeteners in, or artificial colours and stuff. But if you're going to go for that natural option, I'd probably stick with honey, as opposed to spending your dosh on agave syrup. Use it sparingly as well. Just don't pour over your food. Okay, a little bit more of a specific question now. I had off one of the rugby boys. So for some of you, you may just want to listen because it's a bit interesting, but some of you will probably think, what the hell is he on about here? Is colostrum beneficial? So colostrum is basically bovine breast milk. to put it bluntly. That's exactly what it is. It's produced by a pregnant cow. I sound like a vet here, but I'm not. It's the milk that's produced during their pregnancy and just after they're born as well. So why the hell would you want to take that? I don't know in the first place. But what it does is it boosts up a growth factor. Well, it's supposed to boost up a growth factor anyway, which is called IGF-1. Now, IGF-1 is massive, insulin growth like factor 1. It regulates muscle growth, fat loss, bone health. Basically, I wish I could use that because it would make me tall, apparently. So, great. So, bovine milk does have high levels of colostrum in it. You need to extract the colostrum from the milk. As I said, and there's a few papers out there that have said that it supports athletic performance. But also, a good one at this point is there's a number of like immune system benefits to using colostrum as well, and it's been shown to be really good with gut health. But to be honest with you, it's a short answer to your question. No, I wouldn't suggest using colostrum. It's really expensive. There's super limited human studies, so we don't quite know the extent to which that's going to impact you further down the line, and we don't really know what the benefits are to using it. As I said, the studies that are out there showing about jump height and lean body mass being increased weren't very controlled, and I was reading up on it today, and there's about 3 or 4 papers that suggest it's good. And bottom line is is bovine breast milk really cool to drink? Probably not from an ethical standpoint. I don't want to put that in my coffee. So to answer your question, no, colostrum isn't worth it. Right, this was the most popular question. About 3 or 4 people asked this question in a similar sort of way, so I'll try and cover the question as well as I can for all of you in one topic, if that's all right. Are there really healthy fats, and are foods high in good fats bad for you? Right, are there really healthy fats? Yes, there are, definitely. There's 3 different types of basic fats, okay? We probably all know this. We've probably been drilled into this in school and stuff. We've got unsaturated, saturated, and trans fat. These fats have a different chemical structure, okay? So the difference between them is the bonds that they've got between the fat molecule. So saturated fats get the brunt of all the bad media, don't they? They're always banging on about how bad saturated fats are for you. And the reason that they are is because they higher the cholesterol level that we don't want to have higher. So you've got LDL, low density lipoprotein, and then you've also got one which not many people really know about, which is VLDL, very low density lipoprotein. And what these can do is these can cause atherosclerosis, which is essentially a blockage and a buildup of plaque in the artery. So over time, as you've got that chronic buildup of plaque, then that plaque is going to break off, cause a blockage in an artery, which is what causes a stroke, which is causes ischemia, and all loads of crazy bad side effects you would get with high cholesterol, okay? So that is why we tend to look away from using saturated fats in a diet. We'll come back to a little bit of an offshoot of that now as well. So foods with high levels of saturated fats are going to be like processed cakes, biscuits, hard cheeses, and red meats. But to totally ostracize saturated fats from the diet now is becoming a little bit, we can vouch. We've got a doctor who's commented on the bad side effects of saturated fats as well. But when you're in small doses, they're probably not as bad as we originally thought, but you still want to keep them minimized, and you want to keep them out of your diet to the best of your ability, really. So the worst type of fat that you can eat are things called trans fats. Now, not many people know about trans fats. They are manufactured or chemically engineered fats that are used by fast food companies. So they preserve shelf life, they keep the colouring in foods, they keep the flavouring in foods. So you'll see these on packets as hydrogenated fat. They have no nutritional benefit whatsoever, apart from making sure that companies can keep their food fresher for longer, essentially. So if you see things with trans fats in, stay away from them, okay? That's one thing that I would heavily recommend, is you don't consume foods which have hydrogenated fats, oils in, canola oil, things like that. They are just not good for you. So, okay, let's go into a little bit of unsaturated fats as well. So what are unsaturated fats? They come in 2 types. You've got monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. So if you can remember back to O-level or GCSE science, when you've got a monounsaturated fat, that's all that is one carbon bond between the fat molecules, okay? Again, you don't really need to know this, but I just get a chance to geek out, so that's what I'm going to do. Things like olive oil, peanut butter, olive seeds are good sources of your monounsaturated fats, okay? And then you got polyunsaturated fats, which are essentially multiple carbon bonds on that fat molecule. So obviously poly means shape, so you've got a shape of different carbon molecules then coming off that fat molecule. They're vital for brain health, and they are vital for eye health as well. So when you're looking at things like omega-3, which is a fish oil, an omega-3 fish oil is a polyunsaturated fat. Okay, that's just a little fact for you there, if you wanted to know. So yes, there are good fats, there are bad fats, and there's even worse bad fats as well. So we can come on shortly now as to can you eat too many good fats? Yes, you can drink too much, you can eat too much. Doesn't matter how good it is for you, you can always overdo it, okay? So when you're looking at how much fat you need to weigh up your total calorie intake for that day. Again, everyone says that's annoying, I know, but if you're overeating a fat, regardless of the type of that fat, you're going to have negative effects from it, okay? So you see people following ketogenic diets. The reason that a ketogenic diet works for weight loss is the fact that they've removed carbs, and carbs is a source of energy. So it's not the fact that they're smashing in 25 avocados a day and a raw steak. It's the fact that they're not eating 25 bread rolls a day. That is why people would go to a higher fat diet. But if you look at the way that their calories are measured, they're still below what they need to gain weight. Does that make sense? So yes, bad fats, good fats exist. And also you can eat too much of a good fat. You can definitely eat too much of a good fat because they are the most calorie dense type of food. You got 4 calories for a carb, 4 calories for a protein, 7 calories for a gram of alcohol, and then you've got 9 calories per gram of fat. Pretty basic on that one, but then. Again, a good question that I had on my Instagram feed, which I think will probably come into a lot of people's ideas of how they set up a diet, really. And, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Opinions on mixing carbs and fats in the same meal. So, sorry, Jack, it depends. It depends on your goal. Okay, so if we take it to the extreme levels, for the first little example here, I've never liked to put fats in a post-workout meal, so that first meal you eat after you train. There's a couple of reasons for this, but the main one is when we train, our bodies are primarily focused on using protein and carbohydrates to recover and to generate our energy again. So when we finish training, it makes sense that we want to get as much protein and as much carbs back into our muscles as quickly as we can. So fat has a way of being able to slow down gastric emptying. That's a mouthful. Gastric emptying is basically the rate the food leaves your stomach, goes through your digestive system, and then is uptaken into the muscle. If we consume fat, it slows down that process between the carbs and the proteins, which is something that we don't want after training. So if you had to take one key take home from that little segment there is, try not to get a high fat meal in post-workout. So you want to get leaner proteins in, your chickens, your turkeys, your wheys, potentially stay away from your beefs. Your beefs, your duck, I don't know anyone who eats duck this day and age, but I was just thinking of a fatty meat. If you eat duck, then be pretty well off there, really, But yeah, just make sure that you're not getting fats in that post-workout meal. So bear with me on this one because I'm going to go back. I kind of step on my own toes here. So whenever I've set up a diet for someone, I've never really been a fan of, or myself when I've prepped myself, I've never been a fan of putting in fats before I train for the exact same reason that I just said about putting them in post-workout, is the fact that I want to make sure I'm driving all the protein and all the carbs to the muscle so I'm ready to go then for my session. But, from experience, as being a diabetic and seeing a drop off in my blood glucose levels when I'm training, I thought surely there's got to be a better way of regulating how my blood glucose works, and this is the same for you as well. So loads of people now, not loads of people, but people that I've been speaking with are like, well, if you just put a little bit of fat in that pre-workout meal with your carbs and your proteins, you're going to sort of plateau your blood glucose throughout the session. So you're not going to have that drop off in performance. You're not going to have that mental fatigue and that drowsiness that you get when your blood glucose drop during a session. So I would say adding in fats with your carb and protein meal pre-workout isn't really an issue. Okay. However, as you probably guessed, that's for about 95% of the population. That's going to mean absolutely nothing to, because they don't care about maximising that glucose uptake when they train. So what I would say to you is, yes, it's fine. You can blend your carbs and your proteins together. It's not going to have that much of an effect on you. I would say try and stick to that main rule of keeping them away from your post-workout meal. but don't stress about that, right? Again, it all comes down to the fact of making sure you're in a calorie deficit if you're looking to lose weight. If you're in a calorie deficit, it doesn't really matter where you're structuring those meals. For the most part, you'll be absolutely fine with that one. Right, I'm completely going off topic with this one now because I haven't written it down in my questions, but I've seen it pop up along the bottom of the screen. I know someone asked it last week. Alcohol. Look, alcohol, we all know the negative side effects of alcohol over time. With no point beating around the bush on that. And alcohol does suppress certain hormones in the body that prevent you from burning fat for like three or 4 days after you've consumed alcohol. Your body has like this, well, just as a response, it doesn't want to burn fat. So you're going to be looking at a bit of a negative effect of that. You're also probably going to see a decrease in your productivity in the few days. I know I did. I know I had a few pints on Friday, and I was awful when it comes to producing work, to training. So you're going to have that psychological impact of it as well. And you've got to think that, you know, as I said, 7 calories per gram of alcohol. So is that really worth it in your diet? But if it is, don't stress about it. If you fancy a glass of wine or a pint when you get home from work in the night, at this time, it's probably not going to be that negative. Just make sure that you maybe drop some food out from the earlier on in the day. So if you know you're going to get home and you're going to have a couple of glasses of wine, maybe drop carbs from one of your meals. Simple as that. Okay, so I'm not going to for 1 second say you shouldn't be drinking, but you just got to bear in mind for the next few days after that, you're probably going to see a bit of a knock-on effect when it comes to fat loss, productivity, strength gains, etc. Okay, right, that's all of my serious questions now. On to the important questions. Are Jaffa cakes or biscuits? Pretty simple one really, that is, isn't it? It's a cake, it's in the name. And they're an absolutely top tier cake at that as well. Highly recommend a Jaffa cake. KP, this one is from you. So it's kind of a serious question, but it's not as well. If I could only eat 1 fruit or veg per day, 1 fruit and 1 veg per day, what would it be? That's an impossible question. You should never single out a veg and keep it as it is, but I would probably go for grilled asparagus just because it tastes nice and it's got loads of antioxidants in it as well, and pineapple because pineapple has got bromelain. Bromelain helps you with your digestion as well. Okay, so they would be my 2 go-to fruit and vegetables if I was to only live off those 2 for the rest of my life. Yeah, so they are all the questions. That was a decent 25 minutes going through them, but then as I said, if you've got any more that you want to ask over the week, drop me a message or something, or put a comment in the section below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. On another note, me and the boys have got something coming out, hopefully if I can get my laptop to work and post it after this as well. Something a little bit different, just to keep you maybe a little bit more entertained if you're going for a walk or if you've got something before bed. So if I can get it working tonight, I'll get it on there. Hopefully you all enjoy it and you have a laugh as much as we did making it as well. And hopefully something that we can do as we go forward during this time. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Hope I was answered all your questions as well. See you soon, guys.